Welcome back to the Racing Mind video series, where we journey deeper into the human mind than anyone has ever gone before. In this video series, we untangle the ancient mystery of mental illness and teach you what you need to know before your racing mind gets the best of you. This groundbreaking series provides answers to some of the deepest mysteries of the human mind and reveals, for the first time in history, the precise cause of mental and emotional illness and the psychophysiological basis of a wide range of psychiatric disorders and associated medical conditions. These educational videos, which present concepts that are so new that they are just beginning to make their way through the medical field, are based on thousands of hours of direct patient analysis and clinical observation in conjunction with the latest research on psychiatric disorders from around the world. In this segment of the series, we will discuss neuronal hyperexcitability in relation to suicide and self-harm. Suicide is now the second leading cause of death in young persons, occurring at a rate of 129 deaths per day. Every 40 seconds, another person commits suicide, and for every person who completes the act, at least 30 more attempt to end their lives. Though it is widely believed that most persons who commit suicide have a history of depression, population statistics over a 10-year period since the year 2000 show that prescriptions for antidepressants quadrupled, yet the suicide rate continued to climb through the same period. Also, up to 45% of those who completed suicide had visited their primary care physician within 1 month of their death. Then again, most suicide victims have no documented history of mental illness. That raises the question, what really causes a person to commit suicide? What makes this question difficult to answer is that most persons who commit suicide have never seen a mental health professional, and since such persons cannot be interviewed, there is no way of knowing what they were thinking leading up to their deaths. What is known is that many persons who commit suicide show few signs that they are on the verge of ending their lives. While there is no doubt that some suicidal persons hide the way they feel, both the foregoing statistics and direct clinical observations suggest that most suicides are driven by relatively sudden changes in mood and thought processes. This idea is supported by the fact that the use of firearms, which requires little premeditation, is the most common form of death by suicide. According to the neuronal hyperexcitability hypothesis of psychiatric disorders, few stressors in life are severe enough to cause a person who has normal active neurons to reach the point of feeling suicidal. In contrast, relatively mild stressors can feel overwhelming for those with hyperexcitable neurons, and aberrant circuit induction can cause such persons to switch back and forth between anxious and non-anxious, irritable and non-irritable, and depressed and non-depressed or even euphoric states very rapidly and without reason. When they experience these emotional changes, most of these persons are unaware of what is happening in their brains. Consequently, they assume that the changes in the way they feel are a direct consequence of what is happening in their lives. When all efforts to improve the way they feel are ineffective, they may become hopeless and feel as though they would be better off dead. In many cases, the problem is compounded by a loss of social support because of the failure of significant others to understand the erratic and unpredictable changes in mood and behavior that they display. Then again, because their symptoms are circuit-specific and fueled by stress, persons with neuronal hyperexcitability can have long periods of relatively normal functioning or even superior functioning. For example, President Abraham Lincoln suffered from depression and expressed thoughts of suicide on at least 2 occasions during his lifetime. Many others are very successful, hard-working individuals, due in part to the hyperactivity in their brains. Others may have a smattering of symptoms that do not meet criteria for any one of the currently accepted psychiatric disorders, yet neuronal hyperexcitability places such persons at continual risk of sudden and extreme shifts in mood and thought patterns, particularly when under an extended period of emotional stress. For such persons, stress is like throwing stones at a beehive in which the bees, that is, the neurons, are born irritable, and there is no telling how any such person will react to the extremes of emotion that are produced when the bees start to swarm. Hence, it is likely that many persons who commit suicide and other acts of self-harm had no thoughts or intentions of doing any harm until shortly before the act. Even those who, being chronically suicidal, make elaborate plans to end their lives likely abort those plans many times before entering and remaining in a mental and emotional state that finally allows them to complete the act. The most common indicators that a person has hyperexcitable neurons include racing thoughts, difficulty sleeping, poor concentration, moodiness, impatience, and either a hyperthymic or dysthymic temperament. Some may have all of these symptoms, and others may have only one or two of them. Also, many such persons have learned to stave off their symptoms by self-medicating with alcohol, marijuana, cocaine, and other addictive drugs. While these drugs might stave off symptoms during times of low to moderate stress, they typically fail during periods of high stress, which act as a flame of fire that rapidly heats up the hyperexcitable brain. As discussed in previous videos, the most effective natural ways to compensate for the gene abnormality that underlies neuronal hyperexcitability include stress reduction, establishment of an early sleep schedule, regular exercise, enjoying a relaxing hobby, avoiding caffeine and other psychostimulants, and minimizing refined sugar. If these interventions are either too difficult to implement or fail to yield satisfactory improvement, then treatment with neuroregulators and other brain calming medications may be necessary, particularly during high-stress periods in the person's life. In addition, cognitive behavioral and other forms of psychotherapy may be needed to reduce the mental tension that adds fuel to the smoldering embers in the hyperexcitable brain. Control your brain, control your life. We hope that you are benefiting from this video series. Portions of this video and others in this series were taken from the books The Racing Mind and Am I Depressed or Am I Bipolar? Those interested in developing a deeper understanding of this topic can also refer to the scientific publication The Multi-Circuit Neuronal Hyperexcitability Hypothesis of Psychiatric Disorders. Please note that these materials in this video series are for educational purposes only and are not intended to guide treatment without formal evaluation. This video series is sponsored by the Binder Foundation, a charitable organization that is dedicated to the enhancement of human life through research and education on disorders of the mind, body, and spirit. If you have found this video to be a benefit to you, please share it with your family and friends. And please don't forget, your feedback is important to us.